Corruption and Bureaucracy in Public Services, says, at its root, corruption flourishes in condition of poverty and weak public institutions. So that means we need to make sure that poverty is elevated and we have strengthened institutions if we want to fight corruption. Again, if we want to, as I've said, government intervention to remove causes of corruption must include that the basic services is available to people, to our people. We have to make sure that we provide basic services, because if there is scarce services, then corruption will be on. Again, good working environment, especially on human and non-human resources, incentives, wages. We have to think about that one. And here in Tanzania, there is something called kikokoto. I think you know this, eh? Yes. Something which is given after retirement, benefits retirement. The formula used to give someone who is retired is a formula. So in Kiswahili, formula is kikokoto. Yes. I think you will take it in our country. It's a good one. Kikokoto, Kiswahili. And I believe Kiswahili is the language of the African Union. And on 7th July, I think, we celebrate Kiswahili worldwide. Is it? Yes, so try to learn Kiswahili, because Kiswahili is an African language now. Again, what we are supposed to do is to promote principles of democracy, accountability, transparency, and the principle of human rights. If we want to fight corruption, we should not only venture on the issue of accountability alone. There are a lot of issues that we have to combine and strengthen them. Again, we need to have an easy access to information, because transparency goes with easy access of information, easy access to justice, better education system, which nurture patriotism. People should be patriotic to their country. They should love their country. And we need to have strong and accountable institutions, legally and institutionally. If we don't have accountable institution and strong, it will be very difficult to find solution to our problem or to our evil corruption. Now, let's see about the civil society organization. Guided by the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC 2003, the government of Tanzania has taken various and appropriate measures to promote the active participation of individuals and groups outside the public sector, such as civil society, NGOs, and community-based organizations, in the prevention and in the fight against corruption, to raise the public awareness, causes and gravity and threat posed by corruption. Some of such measures are as follows. The government has enhanced the transparent of and promoting the contribution of public to decision-making process. Even during enacting a law, the parliament conduct public hearing to see how the society say about something, about this issue before us. Again, ensuring that the public has effective access to information. We have laws which are concerned by the access to information. Then, undertaking public information activities that contribute to non-tolerance of corruption, as well as public education program, including schools and university curriculum. Here I respect to acknowledge the presence of the former CAG, who has been working tirelessly about this through his institution, Wajibu Institute, and we've been working together with the government and the PCCB, Prevention and Combating Corruption Bureau. Thank you very much, Mr. Otto. The fourth one is respecting, promoting, and protecting the freedom to seek, publish, and disseminate information concerning corruption. Newspapers in Tanzania, they normally publish and they disseminate information about corruption so that people could understand and avoid involving themselves into corrupt practices. Now, why is CSO? Civil society organizations play a significant role in the bonded society and can trigger a process of socio-economic change in many fields, including countering corruption. The role of CSO in Tanzania ranges from fostering democracy, promoting principles of good governance, and boosting transparency. Furthermore, CSO in Tanzania see themselves as monitoring institutions, watchdogs, or quasi lobbying and influencing groups in order to sensitize citizens in the fight against corruption. Thank you very much, CSO. Although no research has been undertaken to assess the impact of CSO, but they are important and necessary partners in the fight against corruption, working together with the government. I think, Mr. Otto, we need to make a kind of research to see the assessment of CSO in terms of impact in fighting corruption here in Tanzania. I think the time is now on. Now, we have this anti-corruption national strategy here in Tanzania. I wanted to highlight it. In 1996, the third president, the late Benjamin Mkapa, formed...
2 more minutes, please.
2 more minutes? Okay, thank you. Formed a presidential commission of an inquiry against corruption, and it was chaired by the retired judge Joseph Sinde Warioba. So this commission is very known by the name the Warioba Commission. Now this report mentions some areas prone to corruption and which needed quick intervention. They included public requirement, employment, revenue collection, administration of justice, and land allocation. One of the recommendations by the Warioba Commission obliged the government of the United Republic to establish a national anti-corruption strategy. In the year 2001, the government established the National Anti-Corruption Strategy and Action Plan, which is a strategic document that confirms continuance of efforts of government to combat corruption. Now, specific objectives of this NACSAP, there are 6. 1, society empowered to participate in all anti-corruption initiatives and promoting integrity. 2nd, accountability and transparency enhanced in state and non-state actors institutions. 3, watchdog or oversight constitution strengthened in upholding integrity and undertaking anti-corruption strategies. 4, ICT-based system enhancing state and non-state actors service delivery. 5, non-state actors actively engaged in promoting integrity and supporting anti-corruption initiative. And the last one, integrity and corruption-free electoral process management strengthened. So these are the objectives. I'm saying, generally, the ultimate change to be impacted to build prosperous society with a robust system of integrity and zero tolerance to corruption, enhanced by citizens, active citizens' engagement, including non- and state anti-corruption drive. This is possible through the influence committed leadership at all levels in the country, delivery of sound legislation, effective information sharing coupled by synergism, building mutual partnership and collaboration among stakeholders, and digitalization of state and state actors service delivery. And I conclude, Chair. It is a worldwide accepted that, however defined in whatever form or emphasis, and whoever is engaging on it, corruption is illegal, immoral, and unethical. Given its persistence in reality, both rich and poor countries continue to grapple with it by taking various deliberate measures to prevent and combat corruption. Corruption is an evil which we are obliged to fight it because it has destructive effects on democracy, accountability, and transparency in our society. Not only that, but also it is a threat politically, economically, and socially. Let us come together and join both hands and minds so that we win the battle. However, to succeed the fight against corruption, proper planning of available resources is inevitable. We need to plan for the infrastructures and measures which will be used to strengthen legal institutional frames. We should not forget that failing to plan is planning to fail. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much to all the presenters. Honorable members, we have listened very carefully to all the presenters. Now we are going to have 15 minutes to make comments or ask questions. It is now over to you, honorable members. I've got already one hand. the roaming mic. Is there somebody helping with the roaming mic, please?
I think
Yeah.
this one is working.
I see. Or can you use that one in front
Yes.
of you? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me thank all the presenters for their lively presentations. The representative, I think it was my dear friend, Mr. Kanyile, is worried about the limitations that our PAC has in South Africa. I wonder whether there is any way SADCOPAC is there any way that SADCOPAC can come to the aid of our PAC in South Africa in order to enable them to do away with these limitations that debar them from working effectively? Secondly, I couldn't get more worried than the escalating, if not the soaring public debt at our very wealthy neighbors, the Republic of South Africa, since 1947, that it is now standing at 71%. It was unfortunate you wiped away the story what IMF and the World Bank. I did not see. I was wondering as to what means, how can they come to the aid of our wealthy neighbors, the Republic of South Africa, about its soaring public debt. You see, I get worried about RSA because it is our wealthy neighbors. It's our very important trading partner as the Republic of Botswana. So the pain they suffer is the pain that Botswana suffers. So I wonder as to how we can help them. I couldn't agree more with you, the last presenter, and you even taught me about, you have added something to my vocabulary, kikokototo. Yes. I wonder whether, can you, this notes that you are presenting, is there a way you can give us some hand notes, please? I thank you, my brother, my neighbor, from
Thank you
the
very
Republic
much.
of Namibia.
The honorable member at the back. Yeah, you can use your mic.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, the chair of the session. I'd like to join my colleague to congratulate the presenters for the well-presented papers. I have two key issues. Number one is about the role of the PAC in determining the fate of the debt management, but also try to control the public procurement practices, as well as contract management. We have seen, in terms of mandate, CAG has two major mandates. He is a controller, but also an auditor. Now, PAC is essentially coming in the aftermath of implementation of the government activities. Is it possible that we can be able to make an intervention, just like in some other SADC countries, where national appointments is done through the national assemblies, where the appointing authorities, say the head of a state, is making a proposal to the National Assembly and ask for the National Assembly to endorse those appointments. Is it possible? Now, for us as PAC of SADC countries, think of a situation where the government is subjected to submit some proposed contracts, especially major contracts, or if there are issues surrounding debt contracting, especially those large debts, so that we can do vetting and probably endorse as part of control before we consider the audit observations raised by CAG after, the agreement has been reached. So I was thinking of the panelists, if they can come up with an idea as PAC in SADC? Can we adopt that? Or this is still a good practice where PAC is just has to recommend or give, views to the government for what the government has had already done? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Charles? I've got only 3 hands so far, then I'll hand over to the presenters.
Okay, I'm going to be very, very short with my question. My question relates to current enactments. First of all, thank you all the presenters for your presentations. It was interesting to see from different jurisdictions how you're doing things and how things are being done. In regards to the fight against corruption, we already have an anti-corruption commission, which is law enforcement, judicial, and prosecutorial. So it does its own thing. It doesn't have to go through the DPP. It sees corruption. You can get arrested by the Anti-Corruption Commission. You can get to court. And there are cases in court currently in the Seychelles in regards to that. Now, my gripe, my issues with the SADC model law and the term hypocrisy. I use that term reservedly because I feel there's an issue going on there. Right. According to the model law, which we're being asked to adopt, basically this has been discussed with a consultant from overseas, and it's a regression on where we were before. Let me explain. The first point I have for contention is this. As we stand today in the Seychelles, the Auditor General decides on his staffing and decides on the regulations that would be part of the enactment or the OAG Act. This law is proposing that the Auditor General will now have to subject to the independent commission, an independent commission that will be appointed either by the executive or by Parliament, depending on who has the majority. That's a regression. Now, the second thing which I have an issue with is this configuration of PACs across different jurisdictions. Now, if best practice is to have PACs chaired by the leader of the opposition or a member of the opposition, and having the opposition have a majority, then why doesn't the law say it outrightly? I know for a fact that the president of SADC-PF himself is the leader of his political party, and he's not abiding by the very same thing that SADC-PF is proposing. So therefore, how can we call this a model law when it doesn't model anything? So I said I was going to be very short. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. Here, the last one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. Continue.
I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate all who presented today. One of the things presented here, it was the issue addressed on the role of SADCOPAC in the model law on PFM, as well as the principles and the guidelines for the parliaments on curbing corruptions in the SADCOPAC regions. I think all we know it is good for our SADC countries, and we know as well SADCOPAC play an important role to strengthen the process of finalizing and the development of the adoption of the model, and this, of course, it was the resolutions of SADCOPAC meetings held in 2023. Mr. Chairman, because we are highly interested to have the similar procedures on curbing corruptions in our SADC countries, how do the SADCOPAC assure smoothness of the process across the SADC countries? Mr. Chairman, with the various strategies which are in place, we know, I think there's a need also to increase attentions so that it is easy to have a common procedures and a common understandings for all the SADC countries on the way of implementing the law. Finally, along the existence of the model, I think there's also a need to have a model team. Apart from the model law, I think there's a need to have a model team in monitoring the implementations of that law in our SADC countries. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Then the gentleman at the back.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to all panels. Exactly, I want to know more about the relationship between PSCs and size in relation to the directives or recommendations of from the PSC to special or any audit. My point is, our PSCs are the one who knows where the SAI can make an audit, but they don't have that whether constitutional or legal power to direct the SAI, since SAIs are independent. However, the head of state and his executive has such power. So I want to hear more about the power or recommendations power of our PSCs to direct whether recommend SAIs to find or work on special or any other audits in relation to the relationship between these two institutions, or whether, however. So the second question is about the curbing corruptions. Actually, what I have heard from yesterday, and since we are the lawmakers, we do believe in legislation is the better way to curb corruption. However, the moral attitudes might find the best way in curbing corruption. So I want to hear from the panel how moral and ethics, our faith, religions, are the best way or better to curb corruption rather than legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I now hand over to the panel for answers? Honorable members, you can start. Yeah, you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe I should start by indicating the following. If you look at in Europe, the public debt, I'm talking public debt. Greece in 2023, public debt to GDP, 165.5%. Italy, 140.6%. France, 111. Spain, 109. The point I'm making is that sometimes we have this thing that the problem of public debt is in Africa, when in fact it's there all over. The big question we must be answering is why are we raising the debt? Is it for development or for other things? But secondly, are we going to be able to maintain the debt, which is extremely important? So to come back to the case of South Africa, just after COVID or during COVID, government had to make some interventions. And it was clear that these interventions cannot be made without getting money somewhere. And this had to do with ensuring that we ease the life of our people during that time, and also we ensure that there's also the safety, the health safety of our people, of the people of South Africa. Yes, there was a time they went to the IMF. It was a big issue in the country because we've got a problem with getting monies from the IMF and the conditions that they normally come up with. We're told by government that it might not be that much interest that you have to pay. But to come back to some of the things that were raised, okay, just to say, maybe just to conclude that part, one of the things that is important is whether the country is also able to put up systems to ensure that it mitigates that. So one of the things that has happened in South Africa is that we have been able to strengthen our tax authority, the South African Receiver of Revenue, in such a way that they are now at a stage where they are collecting more than what we had budgeted for. Instead, in fact, just recently, they've collected more than, if I'm correct, it was 10 billion rand, more than what they were supposed, that the Treasury thought they were going to collect at the time. Let me conclude, Chair, by saying that I think this topic of public debt is extremely important. This is the second time I'm making this presentation We made it in 2002. I know that most of the time we see it, we have got the Honorable, our Treasurer, or Deputy Treasurer also makes the representation. Shouldn't we ask SADCOPAC maybe to have a special team, not just to look at presentations, but how we as public accounts committees can be able to be structured or be guided on how to be able to deal with these matters, or in fact do oversight on such matters. I think it's something that we can do. Yeah, I think those are the issues I wanted to raise. The last one is maybe, yeah, I think it's important. The role of public accounts committees, as far as I have noticed, varies from one country to the other. I'll tell you what I mean by that. There are countries where public accounts committees also do work that does oversight at the beginning of the budget process as well. In South Africa, what we do is the Public Accounts Committee does the oversight mainly based on the report of the Auditor General. And because of that, there are other committees that have a responsibility. And that's why we say there's a need for collaboration amongst committees when we do this.
Thank you very much. I think I'll take questions relating to the model law. If I overlook anything, I think I will ask Honorable Dube to, I think, look at some of the issues. If I take it, I think the question was the model law is a regression. It took us back. I think if I got it. And the second aspect, I think, regarding the model law was on model law team. I think starting with whether the model law took us back or not, I think let me respond in this way. Public finance management itself has evolved over the years, and just like standards on reporting or financial management, what we would say is as countries, we are at different stages in that evolution. So what the scorecard would also help us to do, first and foremost, is to identify those areas where countries actually feel it is a regression. They have since moved away from what the model law is suggesting. So at SADCPF level, what this scorecard or the statistics that the scorecard is also picking is to understand the areas where countries feel they have moved on. And just like standards, I think in my presentation, I highlighted the fact that the model law is not mandatory, but voluntary. It is also going to help SADCPF to identify the areas where, as a region, we feel that the prescriptions or the proposals are no longer best practice in the region. I think we have to understand that even the standards that we are using even for financial reporting, we realized some countries are already migrating from cash basis of financial reporting to accrual basis of financial reporting. The standards that are informing that migration actually are also different. For some countries, they are using international financial reporting standards. For other countries, they are using international public sector accounting standards. We also recognize that some countries, instead of adopting hook, line, and sinker, they are actually adapting and they are giving explanations. So whilst I take note of the concerns that the prescriptions or the proposals in the model law may be not matching a country-specific requirements, I'm saying the scorecard is going to help us for each country actually to pick the specific areas. I'll then come to the issue on a team. Yes, I hear you. Apart from just monitoring the assimilation of the scorecard or domestication of the model law, we also, yes, see the need of sensitizing or helping countries or the key stakeholders understand the model law itself. I'm hoping Honorable Dube can expand on that, because I think as people are assessing themselves, we are expecting the respondents to that scorecard to be familiar with the model law prescriptions, to be also familiar with the laws on public finance management in their country. I think that's what that's what would be my response. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. The addition that I will make to what Doc has said is that as per the presentation, the model law is just used as a model for you to measure. Like you would check in the presentations that we made, the specific list of legislations that you may need to then check. How far are they compliant to the general vision, despite the issue of domestication? Then on whether or not the model may actually be way less than your standard there, and that will be good. We will be happy to find many SADC countries which might be actually having something that is better. But what is there as a model is what we call the minimum general expectation. So it is good if other countries have what is so much better than that. That is wonderful, and that's actually what SADC PF and SADCOPAC would wish to see. Because this is a minimum threshold that is being proposed. Then there was an issue relating to the compliance for all SADC countries on the implementation of the law. This is exactly what SADCOPAC is trying to do by popularizing the model law. And in addition, as indicated, we have suggested various mechanisms that can be used, including not necessarily the domestication, but the area where at policy level, we may make the attorney generals of your countries familiar with the law so that in the legislative draftings, they incorporate certain things. And we have also indicated that at parliamentary level, draft model bills may actually be prepared either from PAC chairs and other committees, incorporating certain standards and principles already, so that during debates on amendment or reviews of different laws, which list actually gets to about 15 to 20 identified areas that may need to be done. Then we have said also it may actually be used in the common law countries in terms of court processes, where we have said actually in terms of our engagement with the law societies and other stakeholders, we may actually have your lawyers maybe when arguing issues relating to corruption or issues relating to the Auditor General's reports and stuff, they may actually then argue using some principles and guidelines in the model law or in the SADC principles on curbing corruption. And a judgment by the court becomes also part of your law in a common law country. And that is where we said it's also another strategy. That's why we said it must be a broader stakeholders approach so that it's not one size fits all. There are many different strategies. Then relationship between park and size, I think from the presentations, it is one of complementarity, where we have said there is need for the standing rules and orders to actually incorporate the general principle of complementarity, where even the anti-corruption bodies may actually sit as observers in park meetings and take up matters and even see how, even in your workshops and other seminars as parliaments, the attorney generals and the prosecuting authorities can actually come in and also see your vision so that they can also find their space within. So the idea is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all, but one where we are saying there are different models and mechanisms which different specific countries may employ basing on what is peculiar in their country, and they will then use that to actually still propel. Then we will use then the scorecard to then check how you self-introspect to then check in which areas and how far have we achieved, where did we not achieve, what could be the reasons, and it moves on like that. That is basically the idea, but I think we would be here to see countries or other countries which are even doing much more than what the model law prescribes, and that is actually good and more ideal. That is my understanding.
Thank you. Next. Are we all through? You're sitting with the mic. That one, does it not work?
Yes. One among the, it has been asked by question that moral and ethics and beliefs are more convenient ways of fighting against corruption rather than legislation. It has been asked by one among the person. So to me, I think fighting against corruption is not an easy task. You have to have all possible ways so that you can fight against corruption. So on one side,
sorry, there's a
ethics,
point. Is it a point of order, point of interruption?
It's a point of order.
Okay.
Can I make a point of order?
I hope we are not in the house.
Esteemed moderator. Look, I think the question is not being answered. All right? If the model law is not a model law that is going to bring the best practice, why would SADCOPAC popularize it? That's the question to you. You can't tell me that because I've had different iterations of the model law, right? A first iteration that came was that the Minister of Finance, according to the model law, will be the one making regulations in regards to the Auditor General's staffing. Now, we all know that this is wrong, because the Auditor General should be able to decide on its own staffing and control its own staffing and the salary of its staff so that it has autonomy. So we push back on this. My Auditor General pushed back, because that is one of the tests of independence that was given to SADS. You come back and you put now the independent commission shall decide on the staffing, on regulations on staffing, which is wrong. The Auditor General needs to decide on its own staffing. So my question to you, which has not been answered, is this. Very simple. If something is not good according to our own best practice, why should we promote it? Why don't we just remove it and go to what is best practice in our region? It's not because some consultant from the UK. If I may, Mr. Moderator, I was there when the law was being designed with a consultant from the UK. We take somebody from the UK and we expect that they know better than we about our own systems? Come on. I mean, my point is this. I'm not going to popularize this model law. Categorical. I'm not. There are things in there that I agree with, but there are things that I don't agree with. So there has to be more discussion on this. So to use the term SADCOPAC should popularize the law, I have to disagree. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you very much. I think we are all members of SADCOPAC in the first instance. We do have the right to give our inputs, and so we can change this model law. That is my personal opinion. So I do not want to answer for my brother, but I believe that we are still having enough room to give input. Can we continue?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I have a question here which is directed to anti-corruption agencies, which is moral ethics and belief. that is more convenient ways of fighting against corruption rather than legislation. In responding this question, to me, I think fighting against corruption is not an easy task. You have to have a lot of possible ways so that you can effectively fight against corruption. So having a moral ethics and belief is one thing, and having legislation is another thing. Also, legislation have important role in fight against corruption. For example, it is legislation which provides punishment to the offenders. It is legislation that provides an offenses of corruption and other issues. So to me, I think corruption, legislation has important role to play in the fight against corruption, and also moral belief and ethics, in another hand, has important role to play in fight against corruption. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Here.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Just short response. In addition to other presenters said, I would like to make an emphasis on the issue of corruption. When we say corruption is illegal, it's where we find a way of using legislations or laws to fight corruption. That's why we say illegal. But if we say immoral and unethical, we apply other means. For example, we urge religious leaders to make sure that their believers live faithfully and morally. And also, if we meet political party leaders, we also urge them to make sure their members and followers to live ethically and with integrity during the political activities when they are conducting. We also urge the parents to make sure their children live ethically and morally, so that when we combine all the efforts, we can have a society which is fighting corruption. I would like to remind you a statement by someone, businessman in United States of America, Warren Buffett. I think you have heard about him. He says, if you hire a person with intelligence, energy, and integrity. If you hire a person who is having no integrity, leave him, because he will kill you. So this is very important. Without integrity, our world is not worth living world. So let us all think about having an integrity in our minds, to change our mindset so that we see corruption is an evil, like a sin we know according to our belief and faith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think two questions relates to what I was talking about. One is the role of PAC in public debts, procurement, and contract management. And it was asked whether is it possible for the CAG to come earlier, or the PAC just to make an earlier intervention. My response to that is according to the mode of accountability that we have chosen, that determines what should be done in which style. Look here, procuring entities, or rather the public organizations, have the internal control system, including the one who oversees the control system. This is the internal auditor general. We have the internal auditor. We have the internal auditor. We have the pre-auditors. For the case of procurement, we have tender boards. And for the case of the contracts and the vetting of the contract to see whether they represent the interest of the procuring entities of the public at large, we have, the law requires the vetting of the contract by the lawyer of the organization or the attorney general, depending on the level of the magnitude of the contract. Now you see, why I'm saying this, you have a strong control system in place. It will be advocating of evils if we decided to jump the control system and invite in some more interventions. Now, our role should be advocating on functioning, adequacy, of the control systems. And I think this is among the roles of the PAC as you are looking at the financial audited, the financial statements audited. The question number 2 was the power of the PAC to recommend the auditable areas, whether the PAC can decide or can determine the areas to, for the Auditor General to pursue. The answer to this one is based on the independence of the CAG, the Auditor General. Our independence is well stated in the Constitution that the Auditor General cannot be directed. And in that matter, we decide on what to do, what to audit, depending within the limits of our laws. However, we have a room of engagement which is very continuing with the PAC through the capacity building programs, several workshops of discussions, through which we exchange notice and through that we can see the public outcry that the members of parliament represent, and we can factor in during our audit planning. I think that is still the best way to approach it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I think I would love to give another round, but time does not allow us. Therefore, I would like to first thank the presenters, all of them, wholeheartedly, as well as also thanking you for your full cooperation. With that, I would like to hand over to the program director, Mr. Did I say the chair? To you. Yeah?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, honorable colleagues. How I wish today we could have done also the badge exchange, but we don't have extra badges so that people can tend to put a badge on their neighbor. I think the session was very interactive, and we've learned a lot of issues, what is happening in other jurisdictions, issues of public debt management, and also the issue of the model law on public financial management. All has been said and discussed, but I think what is before us is the issue of implementation and also how we can navigate, because not all what is in some of these things we are talking about, model laws, are straightforward. I think we've got issues of political will and how we are structured, where we're coming from our various jurisdictions. I think that is what's imperative, that we see how we navigate and see to it that some of these laws can help us see how we can domesticate them. Public debt management is very, very important, and I think I've made presentations also on how, as Zambia, we've enacted the public debt management number 15 of 2022, which comes always when the Minister of Finance is coming to give the budget speech. They come with a borrowing plan, which has to be approved by Parliament, and also our Public Debt Management Act number 15 stipulates a lot of issues on how the country should conduct debt. I think it's from where we're coming from that we were highly geared, we still are, and we were grappling with issues of debt restructuring. But moving forward, we wanted to put mechanisms which will help us to ensure that we are within the tolerable level in terms of debt. Debt is not bad, it's how you use it. Is it for developmental? It shouldn't be used for consumption. So these are some of the issues we need to balance on. I just thought of giving you a short synopsis. Let me take this opportunity to invite now the session chairperson, Honorable Pile from Seychelles to come and take over with this now going proceedings. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'd like to thank our esteemed chairperson for the brief recap which we've had. And there's been some changes to our program, so we'll try to get it through so that we meet the organizational requirements of our day-to-day, as I believe we have a very esteemed and important guest coming to close this conference. So this next session is going to be about utilizing the power of media and civil society organizations, CSOs, to enhance public awareness on curbing corruption and accountability and transparency on natural resources. So just some additional information that you have already there in your program. I'm not going to go through the additional information in your program. I will now call upon the presenters. We have Mr. Ludovic Uto to come forward. Mr. Uto is the former CAG of Tanzania, and I believe by the gray hair we can all see the wisdom coming forward. And I believe, according to Mr. Kitojo's program, we have media and CSOs representative from Tanzania. They're not here. Okay, so I would also like to call Honorable Ina Hengari. Honorable Hengari. Honorable Hengari, we will be doing a recap of today's, of this session after the presentation. So without further ado, I will now turn over to Mr. Ludovic Uto for his presentation, and then we will take your questions, queries, and clarifications after that. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Your Honor, Chairman, Your Honorable members of PSCs of SADCOPAC, as introduced, I'm called CPA Ludovic Uto. It's true, I was the Controller and Auditor General of the United Republic of Tanzania for 8 years, which gave me the opportunity of visiting most of your countries. And may I say that I'm very happy seeing SADCOPAC thriving and doing well. If you reflect, SADCOPAC was started, in actual fact, we are the ones who started SADCOPAC. And I started SADCOPAC, and I volunteered the Secretariat of SADCOPAC to be at the National Audit Office of Tanzania in Dar es Salaam. And today is 10 years since when I retired. So when I got this invitation to come and stand before you people, I said I should first acknowledge the good job SADCOPAC has been doing since when I left the office. Congratulations. The theme of our presentation, Mr. Chairman, I'm giving a highlight, but I'll call upon my man, Jackson Mari, who is going to take us through the presentation. But before I call Jackson, I just wanted to say, your honorable members of PSC's SADCOPAC, let's get it very clear that the wealth and the natural resources of our countries belongs to the people of the countries. They do not belong to politicians or presidents. And because the wealth belongs to the people have the right of knowing what is happening to their wealth. That's why, your honorable members, I would want to say that that's when, you see, that's where the media and the CSOs comes in. Because you need the Office of the Controller and Auditor Generals, the deliberations of PSCs, they need to get to the people through the media and the CSOs. And if you remember, in 2009, there was a World Summit in Johannesburg, where Johanna, the extractive industries, governments, and the CSOs met and decided to establish what is known today as the Extractive Industries Initiative Committee, which is housed in Oslo, EITI, which in Tanzania, I'm privileged to say I'm the chairman of the MST of Tanzania. And through that institution, EITI, which is based in Oslo, it has come up with the standards to regulate the extractive industries in our countries. And if you look at those standards, they are talking of transparency and accountability in the management of our extractive products. The reason why, because before the coming into force of this law, this standard, we were seeing countries, we saw it in Nigeria, we saw it in Nigeria, Angola, even in Tanzania, in actual fact, we had a sample of that. When we discovered gas, before we started extracting the gas, we had riots in our southern region of Lindi and Mtwara because we did not have in place a mechanism of managing the expectation of our people. And therefore, I'm calling upon my young man, Jackson Mari, to come and take you through, and I will be ready for any questions which will arise from the presentations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Otu. So we will call upon your acolyte to continue with your presentation.
Thank you. Good
Over
afternoon.
to you.
Good afternoon, honorable members. Yes, as I've been introduced, my name is Jackson Imari. I'm working with Wajibu as Finance and Administration Manager. So I will do the presentation with 4 key areas. First, I would like to note that we decided to change a little bit the topic so that to make it more clearer and have a focus. So we will talk on the power of media and civil society organizations and how they can enhance transparency, accountability, public awareness as a way to curb corruption in the natural resource. Why did we decide to focus on natural resource? It's because we all aware and we all have all evidence how the natural resources have been contributing to the economies of our countries, economies of the continent and other regions. As you can see the information here, you can see other countries depend, their GDPs depend more than 59% from the natural resources. Therefore, natural resources are contributors of our GDPs, and we need to manage them well. We did a highlight from the African Economic Outlook, the report published in 2023, and you will find there are some information that focuses much on natural resources for Africa, and you can see that 30% of natural resources, minerals in the world are in Africa. And you can see that more than 1 trillion have been lost as in illicit flows for the past 50 years, and about 89 billion is lost in the coming years. So if something is not well done, the impact and the effect will increase. And you'll find that the report emphasizes more on the need for creating more value within the continent but enhancing the governance of our natural resources. Yeah. If I recall back from the new public management era, transparency, accountability have been overemphasized, and specifically has been like a prescription to all developing countries. But this focused more on a Western style, meaning looking on policies, legal reforms, institutional structures, and processes. But these have not yielded more as the problem continues. And as a way to try to fix this, the question of how we can achieve transparency and accountability beyond the formal institutionalism or the top-down structure have been discussed and dealt with. As you can see, there is a transparency in that picture. We see how much is coming out of that pipe, and we can see how much have been taken out before it reaches the final destination. This is a transparent, but the work does not, the impact is not achieved. And one of the reasons is that most of the African countries have been very actively in doing what they call institutional framework reviews, legal reforms, formulation of structures as a way to access funds or money from the World Bank, as a way to access money from IMF, as it has been a prescription. But there has not been a real political will to make these institutions functional. And that is one of the very big challenges. As you can see, we have moved very well, we have performed very well in terms of compliance issues, ticking the boxes. Yes, we have the Controller and Auditor General. This, we have the independence secured legally. Yes, we have the audit performed annually. Yes, we have the PAC doing the reviews. This, we have the PAC doing the interrogation and things like that. The Parliament issue recommendations, but the efficiency is the part that it's not well performing. As you can see, one of the change that FATF made in their 40 recommendation and how they did the evaluation is that they thought it's high time now to start emphasizing on efficiency. Therefore, they are doing now the review in terms of a technical compliance, but also the review in terms of efficiency and effectiveness. And from there is now where we can say we need civil society organization to come in as a way to support or as a way to influence performance of these systems which are there to govern our extractive sector. Of course, corruption in the extractive sector happens in various stages of the extractive sector value chain. You can see from the decision to extract, in terms of awarding of mining, oil and gas rights, in terms of extraction, operations and regulations, in terms of revenue management, revenue collection, revenue management, and even the revenue spending and social investment project. Where are the extractive revenues being invested? So the OAC has pointed out several areas that pose a risk in terms of managing extractive sector, and those risks amount to corruption. As you can see, the first point have been well discussed in terms of gaps in anti-corruption, legal, and judicial systems, but we still need to have a discretion, we need to address the discretion power and high politicization of decision-making process in the extractive value chain, but there are risks in terms of inadequate governance of the extractive sector, the gaps and discrepancies in corporate due diligence processes, and even occupants' opacities on beneficial ownership. This have been discussed by Mr. Uto, one of the very championed agenda by EITI in terms of knowing who is really benefiting from the revenues and the resources of our countries. Therefore, I would like to start emphasizing the contribution of civil society organizations and media by highlighting that if we go with the institutionalism or the top-down governance, government will be the main actor. But to add efficiency in that, we need also to promote the second side, like what we call the demand side of social accountability, where the accountability starts from the bottom up, to the top government. Therefore, the CSO and media are now becoming the main actor in this approach. And the main things that CSOs has been doing in order to have a progressive, inclusive, and sustainable social development, one of it is to enable the people to claim their rights, to promote right-based approach, shaping development policies and partnership, and the last one is to provide an oversight of the implementation of government policies. As a way to enable public people to claim their rights, civil society organizations and media are committed to provide human rights education and legal advice. I will have one example in terms of how civil society have contributed to legal advice and how are they monitoring human rights situation. But also media are continuously using their capacity to engage with the existing political spaces like this one. The parliament, Wajibu has been well engaged, and other civil society organizations. Most of the parliamentarians from Tanzania are well aware of how they use the Pius Msekwa Hall for hearing from the stakeholders and mostly from civil society organizations. In promoting the right-based approach, we decided to pick a policy brief published by Stockholm Environmental Institute in 2020, and they say they put it more clear that CSOs and media can support community to use 3 approaches in making right-based claims, and one is pursuing environmental justice claims. Number 2 is making indigenous rights and land claim. And the final one, which is more problematic, is claiming the right to conduct artisanary and small-scale mining. In African countries, this is one of the very big challenge. Communities are denied the chance to participate in their extractive sector. But in shaping and developing policies, civil society organizations are very good in providing evidence-based support to government decision-making process. Civil society are doing researches, are collecting various information, and they are very well in terms of tailoring the information in such a way to support better decision to cover for the majority. But also, they supply to the parliament with critical information and evidences to support policy making. As an oversight of implementation of government policies, civil society organizations support the parliamentarians' oversight committees in tailoring the analysis, reviewing the Controller and Auditor General's report, providing another eye or another angle of discussion on how the governance structures can be improved, but we do provide technical support to the Parliament Oversight Committees. We provide the data and information specifically from the local communities, because most of the civil society organizations are coming from the local communities, and we also able to mobilize community monitors around the project areas. So if civil society organizations are well used, they can mobilize communities to be aware and track implementation of development projects. In terms of fighting against corruption, I will not overemphasize because Mr. Mwaiselo has said it all. We do education, research, monitoring, awareness raising, advocacy, and things like that. But I would like to also emphasize the unique contribution that media can make. Yeah, we all aware that media, particularly if they do investigative journalism, is very crucial in exposing corruption. We have seen several media works that expose corruption and provide the public scrutiny in the fight against corruption, but also they have the capacity to confront people who are not ethical. Yes, in terms of they are unique. Another is on public awareness that has been well done. But here I would like to present one of our challenge that...
You've got to move things along a little bit. Okay.
Thank you. So here I want to pose one of the unique challenges that civil society organizations and the media face, specifically when working with the parliamentarians. Sometimes you will find, yes, I'm working at a certain constituent, maybe Madam is coming from that constituent, and you find Honorable Chair thinks that I'm trying to present my capacity to overtake.
Go ahead. So I don't want to get into civil society. Go ahead.
And this has been evidenced because most of the politicians, they are coming from the civil society organizations. It's very evident. Our president several times confesses she worked with a civil society organization. Prime Minister worked with a civil society organization. Our Honorable Humi Mwalimu worked with a civil society organization. So sometimes politicians think civil society organizations are using it as a chance to move to the higher positions. As a way to finalize it, I would like to emphasize the use of EITI standards as a way to unify and have a focus in what all stakeholders are doing in the fight against corruption. Some of the innovative approaches that civil society organizations have been taking, one of it is to do strategic litigation. We have the case with the CAG of Tanzania in the court. Don't take it as bad, but we do have an innovative fundraising, and also we need to start employing artificial intelligence in how we are doing our work. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, Mr. Utu would like to add something. The way we are going to proceed is that I do know we are approaching lunchtime, and somebody yesterday said you don't want to stand between somebody's stomach and his food. I do not want to be in that position also today. So what we will try to do is we will try to fit in the last point by Mr. Utu. We will take the Q&A, and my esteemed colleague, Honorable Ina, I want to pronounce it Aina, but it's Ina, who will then do a small recap before we break for lunch. So bear with us. Mr. Utu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I just wanted to say that corruption, if we believe in the rankings of the Transparency International, if you go by their results, Sub-Saharan Africa is in great problems because the ranking in Sub-Saharan Africa is a shame. And therefore, I thought I should bring it up because really it is the responsibility of the PSCs in this room to ensure you come up with a mechanism of improving that situation, your honorable members. You see, the ranking of the international transparency puts Seychelles, where our chair comes from, as number 1 in Africa. They scored a 77. Can we give a clapping to Seychelles? Because it's a country within the SADCOPAC. In actual fact, in Africa, it ranked the first in Africa, in as far as that. But most of our countries, whereas Seychelles ranked 77, South Sudan scored 13% out of 100, the West. And Tanzania, we improved gradually 2 points. We came to 40. But still, we are below the average of global average, which is 53. And therefore, Your Highness, I thought I should say that in this score, we have a duty to do ahead of us. It is the duty of PSCs, your honorable members, to see what is wrong with our countries. Why are we performing the West compared? Is it an issue of legal frameworks? Is it an issue of leadership? What is our problem? I think if we can contemplate all that to see how we can improve and score as high as our brothers and sisters in Seychelles. Thank you very much on that.
So thank you very much, Mr. Utu, and thank you for your wonderful comments about the Seychelles. It's been a long road for us as well. It's not been easy for us to get to where we are. The one thing that we do is we never accept anything at face value. So just like I have a problem with the SADC model law, I'm not going to be quiet about it. And I think that's what has been working for us, is that we're not quiet about things, we push things, and we try to get things done, and it works. So perhaps someday SADCOPAC, in their wisdom, may see an opportunity for Seychelles to make a presentation about our journey so far in regards to transparency initiative, but also in regards to curbing corruption. With that, I will now allow honorable members to make comments, ask your questions to our esteemed panel. I believe that we have somebody who is very passionate about civil society here. Far be it for me as a politician to get in the way of civil society. So, so I would like to ask the floor. If you have any questions, queries, please put up your hands and the mic will come to you and you can ask your question and our panel will try to answer. Or is it you are hungry? Any questions? I don't think anybody wants to talk about civil society. I will then ask our panelists to provoke you. We have one. Our esteemed colleague from Malawi, a member of the Governing Council. Honorable, over to you. Can we provide honorable member with a microphone, please?
Thank you very much, moderator, and through you to thank the presenters for giving us that very thoughtful presentation. I will not comment specifically based on the presentation that has been made, but just to reflect on the role of civil society and media in the manner that how the PSCs specifically, and how they interrelate with the work of PSCs, civil society groups, and indeed media. I wanted to tap the knowledge from our Papa with regard to the relationships between the PSCs and the outcomes that come from the PSCs. I was on the national radio a couple of weeks ago where I noted, that is from the experience that I've had, that in most cases, where you have chairpersons of PSCs in our parliaments, you find that in most cases, the public want to feel that you are a civil society activist. As you know, that we have the standing orders in Parliament, then there is the Constitution, and there's other, legislations. I have noted, as chairperson of PSC in Malawi, that the public want you to behave as an activist. So much so that if you are presiding over your business in the, you want to extract information from the PSC, and then you need to make a presentation in the National Assembly. In between, you have to make sure that that information goes to the National Assembly and to the public, but with recommendations. You are standing to make sure that that information, it goes to the public, but in the manner that you are following the procedures. The standing orders, the Constitution, and indeed these other legislation, the Public Audit Act, the PPDA Act, and indeed the PFMA Act. That is confusing because I'm only here as the PSC chair, and I'm responsible to the people of Malawi through the National Assembly, but at the same time, they want me to speak or to put out information as an activist. In that situation, how do you advise, especially for me as a PSC chair and indeed my colleagues, so that we shouldn't be seen that we are holding some information which the public thinks that they need it right there and then, and yet that information is supposed to be passed on to the public through the National Assembly.
Honorable member.
I'm winding out because these are the situations that I meet every day.
I know.
In my
as a fellow parliamentarian, I know exactly what you are doing.
Thank you very much.
So I will allow the panel to answer now, please. Thank you. We'll take one more point from our esteemed chair of SADCOPAC.
Thank you so much, session chairperson, and I'm grateful. I think from the Zambian perspective, maybe perhaps just to give a short comment, is that we work very well with CSOs, and from inception, we've regarded them as our major stakeholders, especially in information dissemination, and also just to ensure that the public is aware. We start from what is called the Expanded Budget Committee, where I also sit as a chairperson of PAC, so that they give us, we give them a platform to come and interact with us and also interact on the aspects which they want to see in the budget as they go back to the people to sensitize them and to follow some of these processes so that they are part of the governance processes. And through workshops, radio programs, and as well as Parliament radio and TV, we're able to see the community coming, even as we have these public hearings, and they have a stake in an interaction because they have begun to understand the process. So we've continued to ensure that the civil society are given a platform always. Sometimes, yes, like Honorable Botomani is saying, they tend to want to turn you into an activist, but we need to always strike a balance that we are members of Parliament. Our role is to is bound and also guided by the Constitution as well as our standing orders. But for them, I think I look them mostly on dissemination of information and sensitizing the community so that they understand also the parliamentary proceedings, then they can participate, because we do it for the people. Thank you.
I think it's a very important point, and it complements very well what the honourable member was saying before. Yes.
Yeah,
Madam.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I should congratulate the presenters. It was a very good and informative presentation. For the Tanzania side, we are working very closely with the civil society, and we are very grateful to Mr. Uto, because he has been very good through his Wajibu Institute to help parliamentarians to discuss issues, especially budgets, special report of the CAG, to look at it, and he produces books, or his institution produces books which help the civil society to understand how the report of the CAG has been coming out and how the budget is working. So I think maybe we have not done much more than is needed to be done, but I should say that even when we have some new laws that have to be passed, the civil society has been invited to give their views. So for Mr. Uto, who has been a CAG and a renewed CAG who has been highly regarded in Tanzania, we benefit a lot from him and from his analysis, because he's putting some good challenges to the MPs through his seminars. And so we are expressing our gratitude to the Wajibu Institute. So we thank also all the presenters for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam. I think you've made a very important point, and I think if I would ask the floor to acknowledge the contribution made by Mr. Uto to the context of auditing and his role as Controller and Auditor General in Tanzania, I would like the floor to give him a round of applause, please. A proper round of applause. Thank you. I will now turn over to our panel to answer the questions and make comments about the queries that were raised. I'll start with Mr. Uto himself, and then we'll go to our colleague in regards to the CSOs. Mr. Uto.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. What I can say is that as members of Parliament, as members of PAC, you have a role to play. And you should play that role fairly, consistently, without fear of you being thought to be an activist. And I don't know why people should think of you to be an activist, because in the first place, under the Western democracy, which our country is following, parliamentary oversight committees are expected to be headed by the opposition parties. But the report which goes to Parliament, or the discussions which ensue in your deliberations, they are not the chairman's, they are the deliberations of the committee. And normally, in democratic societies, PSC deliberations are supposed to be public. And therefore, people will be observing and following what is happening in the committee. Therefore, the fear that, yes, I will be seen as an activist, being the chairperson, should not be there. Because what you are taking to Parliament for adoption is not the chairperson's comments, it's the committee's comments.
Recommendation.
And that is a collective responsibility of the whole committee. Unless you are a chairperson or chairman who is a dictator, that you impose your views on your other people. And if you did that, you will not survive. The other members will kick you out. Of my friend from Zambia, when you get back to Zambia, please, my regards to your president. Because He was the chairman of PSC Zambia. And when I was the Controller General, we interacted a lot, me and him. And I came to Zambia literally to talk of the Parliament of Zambia on the role of CAG in the management of public resources. So, and he participated in many of our events when I was the CAG. And so when he became the president, I was very happy for him. And I hope he's doing a good job. So let us do our jobs without fear. As long as we follow procedures, we follow the law. One. And then the other thing I thought I should say, the point raised by our chairperson on the, as SADCOPAC, we should be very careful really what we are advocating for and what we are expecting our member countries to implement. If we think that the draft SADC model law has weaknesses, please, we had better think about it, go back to it, and let's ensure that what we are proposing to our member countries is something to bring about improvement and literally not to regress. That is my humble request, because anything to do with the tempering of the independence of the CAG, the Controller and Auditor General, is something which should be shunned. It's something which should be shunned because it's not going to be, it will not bring positive results, and we are not going to improve the situation we are in by coming up with that. So please, let us seriously heed the advice. Let us look at the law again once before we strongly market it to our member countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think that's a very good note to end on here. Our younger colleague in regards to the CSOs.
Thank you. I think I want to conclude by emphasizing the innovative approach that I was talking about. And here to share an example, I think it's Zambia or Mozambique have even put a specific officer who is coordinating all the work of civil society organizations. So I think other member countries, SADC member countries, can see how to copy or replicate that. And another area is civil society organizations are very good in creating free platforms for discussion and dialogues. And Wajibu has been implementing that. And for this year, I would like to welcome you to the International Transparency and Accountability Conference, which will discuss much on public procurement. So you are welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think this concludes our Q&A that we have in regards to this session. I would now like to invite my esteemed colleague, Honorable Ina, to do a brief recap. Shall we say 5 minutes, and then we'll take the logistical arrangements for the rest of the day. Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon. This room is dead. Good afternoon. My name is Ina Engari, as introduced earlier on. I am a member of parliament in Namibia, one of the youngest. My task here is to do a brief recap of today. I think today has been very eventful, from load shedding and all the presentations that we had. But I think before I do the recap, and I want to thank the chairperson of SADCOPAC, the Honorable Warren Mwambazi, for the opportunity to do a recap and also present a very important demographic, the young people. And I think it's very unfortunate that of the discussions that we had during the seminar, I only saw 2 women on the panels that I saw, and congratulations to you. You really did well in your presentations, informed. But I think moving forward, there was a resolution in Botswana by this very meeting that we would but commit to involving more women in our panels. So I think we have enough women who have not just the skill, but the expertise and knowledge, and can contribute equally to important conversations such as this. And now moving on to the substantive issues, we had a brief discussion with Brian Dube, who showed us and took us through the principles and guidelines for parliaments on curbing corruption in the SADC region. He spoke about 3 types of corruption: bribery, fraud, and state capture. We also spoke about the various principles, which includes constitutional and statutory frameworks, codes of conduct, oversight tools and compliance mechanisms, independence of external enforcement institutions, basically which looked at the independence of the supreme audit institutions and giving them the space to effectively and efficiently carry out their mandates. We also had another presentation by Dr. Onai Muvingi, who spoke on the data from the balanced scorecard on the implementation of the SADC model law. I think it was quite notable to note that the main objective of this model law is to enable parliaments to conduct legislative, budgetary, and oversight functions for public financial management in a way that is transparent, efficient, and responsive to the needs of SADC. The extent of domestication, of course, I think that's where my colleague here from Seychelles comes through, and he says the extent of domestication of the SADC model law on PFM is solely dependent on each member state. And I think you're correct when you say if it works for us, perhaps we should advocate for it. But if there are better strategies that allow us in our countries, and depending on the efforts that we've already put in place to achieve those objectives, then perhaps it's not for us. I fully support that statement. We had another presentation by Mr. Deo from the CAG of Tanzania, who spoke about PAC and size and the relationship. He also spoke about a common mission, which is accountability. He took us through the center of interaction of size, and I think it's quite notable that the committees in this particular case, as he highlighted in his presentation, the committees actually appoint the auditor of SAI. I think that's quite interesting, because in my country, although Parliament approves the appointment really happens at the executive level by the head of state. Then Honorable Kanyile from South Africa, who took us through a very interesting session, which was also characterized by a bit of load shedding. But Namibia has no right to laugh at that, because as we all know, we also benefit from South Africa in terms of electricity. He also took us through the role of PACs in public debt management, why public debt is necessary, and how the lack of efficient and effective management of resources, not just mineral resources, but also human resources, leads to, in the long term, public debt. He also called on SADCOPAC to refocus and strengthen cooperation with regulatory bodies which monitor and guide matters related to public debt. I'm almost done. Zanzibar Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Authority took us through the relationship between layers and Parliament, the enactment of legal framework and mandate, the approval of regulation and other bylaws, Parliament, and how Parliament assesses these institutions, and how they also use Parliament and parliamentary committees as a source of information when conducting important investigations. Mr. Kasongwa, on fighting corruption and how it's a noble obligation for all. I took note of the commission of 1996, which is my year of birth, unfortunately, which was formed, and they released a report known as the Warioba Report. And I think this was part of former President Benjamin Mkpa's commitment to fighting corruption in Tanzania. And that is as a result, and that was the result of that commitment, a report and a commission subsequently that was established in 1996. I am almost done. The power, I think the last presentation was quite clear and straightforward. They looked at the power of media and social and civil society organizations in enhancing public awareness, transparency, and accountability to curb corruption in the natural resources sector. Transparency and accountability beyond ticking the boxes. And I think when he said we must go beyond ticking the boxes, it also reminded me of our responsibility as lawmakers to go beyond ticking the boxes of women and youth representation and actually mean it. And when we have the opportunity to empower a woman or a young person, I think it's important that we also commit to that. And I think with that said, thank you very much. You can now go eat.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Member. I think the ending of what you put forward couldn't have been better. You know, there's one thing we need to leave before we go to lunch that's important to us. You know, we cannot continue to come to these conferences and lament about our resources, lament about how we're going to monitor and ensure that what we get from our resources goes back to the people. We cannot continue to do that. Because the solution is with us. We have the solutions. We have those resources. It belongs to us. The sun and the sea and the sand of the Seychelles belongs to the people of Seychelles. The sun and the sea and the sand of Zanzibar belongs to the people of Zanzibar. The Tanzanite belongs to Tanzanians. The cobalt, the nickel, the diamonds belongs to the people of Zambia and Namibia. It belongs to us. They need us. But we cannot continue to peddle their solutions within our enactments. We need to enact our own laws that protects our own self-interest. Thank you very much. Now I'll turn it over to Kitojo and CAG for us to the rest of the logistical arrangements. I would like our panelists, our esteemed member from Namibia, for reminding Kitojo that he needs to be more inclusive in preparing for these presentations. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Honorable Member, let me take the opportunity to invite Mr. Robert for...
Good afternoon, honorable members of the SADCOPAC community, the delegates in the House. I believe you have enjoyed the presentations and you have acquired a sufficient amount of knowledge, experience sharing, exchange of experiences within the SADC region. And let's say we mark the conclusion of our workshop today at this time for, we'll be having just one session, this which is be the closing session. Right now we are going for lunch. We have like 1 hour for lunch. We expect that everyone will be seated by 3 o'clock. So please, as you go out for your lunch, just bear in mind that 3 o'clock, we expect everyone to be seated so that we can start the closing program. Our closing program will start from 3 o'clock, sorry. And we'll be having 5 events in the program. It will be printed and shared on the table. So when you come back from your lunch, you'll find the program on the table where you'll be able to follow along. And so we're expecting the Prime Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania to be our guest of honor in the closing program. And as I have it here, just for the sake of summarizing the information before you go out for lunch, we will have the guest of honor speech. Before that, we'll have a representative from SADCOPAC to give the vote of thanks. And then we'll have the Controller and Auditor General of Zanzibar to also give a vote of thanks. Then we'll have the Honorable Minister from Zanzibar, Honorable Minister Mwalimu Haruna, that will be inviting the guest of honor. And then we'll have the guest of honor that will give a speech. And after the speech of the guest of honor, we'll have a group photo as planned by the team, by the Secretariat, after which the guest of honor will be departing from this conference hall. And then that will mark the end of our program for today. After that, today, we're expecting to have dinner. The dinner is planned for everyone who is invited in this conference. During the dinner, we'll also get a moment to share the certificates for the delegates, participants of the workshop. And tomorrow, we'll have an opportunity to visit the different tourist destinations that we have in Zanzibar. So get ready. I know we have some members in the delegates that have already seen some of the places in Zanzibar, but most of the members, I believe they have not. So we'll have that opportunity tomorrow. The whole day we planned for that. And just one last important point. We would like to have your departure informations, your departure details. We have some members that have not shared their departure details. We have some members that have changed their departure details for one reason or the other. Please make sure that we get your updated departure details so we arrange the transport and other logistics necessary for you. After saying that, I invite each and every one of us to enjoy the lunch that has been prepared for us. Please, you're welcome. Let's go for lunch. Lunch is served.
makisima ba. Tamala bala tamula, kana bala ibe kuma follow the luli, isa kuma bale fuye, kuma buya bala. Dunia kono follow the luli. Mata musila wena you lala kumolelo fala kumolelo Manula Jamali tambitale we Jamali tambitavo Udinala kumolelo ifala kumolelo Fajamani, Fasinjamani, Nutala. Fajamani, Fasinjamani, Nutala. Wimbajamani, Fajamani, Fasinjamani, Nutala. Nutala. New July. Fajamani, Fasinjamani, Nutala. Fajamani, Fasinjamani, Nutala. Salajina, Ajulo Salah. Salajina, 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 Ajulo Salah. Allah fulli masaye, Jigobe Saladina. Allah fulli masaye, Jigobe Saladina. Isa fulli masaye, Jigobe Saladina. Allah fulli masaye, Jigobe Saladina. Allah fulli masaye, Jigobe Saladina. Allah fulli masaye, Jigobe Saladina. Salamatona, Saladina, we Saladina, Ajlo Salah. Saliwatulule, Jigobe Saladina. Saladina, Salvatululina, Jigobe Saladina.
denko yo. Dinko, dinko yo. Ala fonyeba, femin repisa denko dina.
Fen ma fesa denko di. Fen ma fesa denko di. Ala jelele denko, don dali masa jelele denko ni do.
Dinko, dinko yo. Dinko, dinko yo. Ala fonyeba, femin repisa denko dina.
Fen ma fesa denko di.
Fen ma fesa denko.
Fen ma fesa denko di. Ala jelele denko, don dali masa jelele denko ni do.
Bikana silanjonye, nani nyakolo, yauti mami na bata betuni nyakano.
Jamana la siyaya, benni babone. Jamana la siyaya, benni babone. Tunya le rafisa jamana la siyaya.
Kana silanjonye, nani nyakolo, yauti mami na bata betuni nyakano.
Jamana la siyaya, benni babone. Jamana la siyaya, benni babone. Tunya le rafisa jamana la siyaya.
Kulungaru baru, kulungaru baru seye. Kulungaru baru seye. Badala la kalamena dam fama barakijola.
Ala ni nadu wa ule. Ala ni nadu wa ule. Nenka mendi sober mona kola. Ila kala yemene nadu.
Kulungaru baru seye. Kulungaru baru seye. Badara la kalamene dam fama barakitola. Denko, denko yo. 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 Ayona, denko yo. Denko, 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 denko yo. Ina, denko yo. Denko, 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 denko. Denko, denko, denko yo. Denko yo. Denko, denko yo. Denko, denko yo. Denko, denko yo. Denko, denko yo. Ayona, denko yo. Denko, 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 denko yo. Ina, denko yo. Denko, 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 denko. Denko, denko, denko yo. Ni yo, ni mutaiba.
Ni yo, ni mutaiba. Ni yo, ni mutaiba. Ni yo, ni mutaiba. Ni yo, ni mutaiba. Marafani fisa maranya witambe. Watamu hufai berede yo berede. Ni yo, ni mutaiba. Ni yo, ni mutaiba. Ni yo, ni mutaiba. fisa maranya witambe. Eh, wata mufari belede yo belede. Kurumba waire, 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 kurumba waire. Kurumba waire, kurumba waire, kurumba waire, kurumba waire, kurumba waire, kurumba waire, kurumba waire. Marafani fisa maranywa witambe. Watamufari belede yo belede. Kurumba waire, 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 tata sumba waire, kunibenda kurumba waire, kurumba waire, tata ula kono nyaminta, tata sokono la kunibenda nema, moko kunibenda kurudo. Tata ula kono nyaminta, tata sokono la koni benda nema, moro koni bene kurudo. Tata ula kono nyaminta, sokono la koni benda nema, moro koni bene kurudo. Tata ula kono sokono la koni benda nema, Sokono la koni benanema, sokono la koni benama, 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 sokono la koni
Madenule, kanyon tele nyonye, jamfamani, wala yesigini boyala. Madenule, kanyon tele nyonye, jamfamani, wala yeteriani boyala. Madenule, kanyon tele nyonye, jamfamani, wala yesigini boyala. Mo akiri ana terodi, kitele na lebide, nikitele mbi. Mo bakeri ana terodi, kitele na lebide, nikitele mbi. Sabari kanye, sabari, sabari kanye, sabari, sabari kanye, sabari, sabari leñote, oh sabari, sabari kanye, sabari, sabari kanye, sabari, sabari kanye, sabari leñote bi. Mbadenga, gene banabola kona gelen koni ye berta du. Aye pepe, koni aye pepe, pepe, aye pepe, umeke, aye pepe. Mo kele ye kurela le beate sonkola, mo kele koni de sonkola.
Gade sonkola, mokele konite sonkola. Gade sonkola, mokele konite sonkola. Gade sonkola, mokele konite sonkola.
Mbadeng, kene barabola kone kele koni ye bereta du. Mokele yukurela libete sonkola. Bena. Kene barabola kone kele koni ye bereta du. Mokele yukurela libete sonkola. Ate sonkola bide. Aye kurela libifeu. Aye kurela libifeu. Pole kone kele te bereta du. Pole kone kele te bereta du. Mokele nyako ni manyumfeu. Mokele nyako ni manyumfeu. Badenya kanifo. Singi ya kanifo. Moba kora kanifo. President kanifo. Senegela kanifo. Berela la kanifo. Sumba kora kanifo. Biafola kanifo. Moba kora kanifo. Monyama kanifo. Negifola kaneni.
Badenya unifaso. Nisera konkubadu. Here nifanya manakono. Fanya managadi gadi.
Kobiye o mama, kobiye o. Enelu fasola, kobiye. Kobiye o mama, kobiye o. Enelu fasola, kobiye. Kobiye o mama, kobiye o. Enelu fasola, kobiye. Ni wara fasola, kobiye. Ni wara fasola, kobiye wo. Anelu fasola, kobiye. Kobiye wo mama, kobiye wo. Enelu fasola, kobiye. Kobiye wo mama, kobiye wo. Enelu fasola, kobiye. Ni wara fasola, kobiye. Ni wara fasola, kobiye wo. Anelu fasola, kobiye. Kobiye wo. Anelu fasola, kobiye. Kobiye wo. Mungu baka uru fasola, kobiye. Oh, nelu wara konkubala.
Hello, hello. Microphone test. Majaribio, hello, hello. Tunajaribu. Hello, hello, hello. Majaribio. Hello, hello. Microphone test, hello, hello, hello. Hello. Hello, hello. Tunajaribu. Hello. Hello. Majaribio. Hello, hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Check. Majaribu. Hello.
Lana ya kasade, lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade, lana ya kasade, lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade, lana ya kasade, lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade, lana ya kasade.
Hello.
Lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade.
Brixelula janyara, tamala idi memfoye. Kini boleke wala sa, tamala lule wodi. Pari wula janyara, kumala ba idi memfoye.
Hello.
Kini boleke wala sa, kumala ba lule wodi. Lana ya kasade, lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasa. Aha.
Lana ya kasade, lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade, lana ya kasade.
Kasade na yo, kasade yo.
Lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade.
Amerikula janyara, tamala idi memfoye. Kini boleke wala sa, tamala lule wodi. Japon wula janyara, samara nengtil koni di memfoye. Kini boleke wala sa, samara nengtil lule wodi. Lana ya kasande, lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasa.
Lana ya kasade, lana ya kasasa, lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade, lana ya kasade.
Akasade na kanasade yo.
Lana ya katinye, nakanjeka kasade. Lana ya kasade, lana ya kasade. Lana ya kasa, lana ya kasa, lana ya kasa, lana ya kasa de la calle. Lana ya kasade, lana ya kasade, lana ya kasa, lana ya kasa, lana ya kasa, lana ya kasa de la calle.
Selula janyara, Pari wula janyara, Amerika wula janyara, Sigiri wula janyara, Mampara wula janyara, Kankan wula janyara, Ankan wula janyara, Haja kanke yo kana kumaye. Kasa kasa, bai kala jali kayo Sarabala mimudalika Sarabala mimudalika yo Sarabala mimudalika Kemana kanunke yo Kebani kemana kanunke Toro de la canuna, bimolu bolosa. Musomana canunke, musoni musomana canunke. Toro de la canuna, bimolu bolosa. Tono que pa canunke yo, que bani muso yila canunke yo. Toro yela la canuna. Molu bolosa Ali koro te kani minabi Bimodi koro siwo kana yo Sarabala Bimodi komangini Manyoye Bimodi kora lombi Malinko, kuna wato malinko, wato malinko, kuna wato malinko, wato malinko, wato malinko, wato malinko, de kuna wato malinko, wato malinko, wato malinko, wato malinko, de kuna wato malinko, wato malinko rode, wato malinko rode, so pe pale malinko, kuna wato malinko. So pe pale malinko, kono wato malinko, wato malinko rode, wato malinko rode. Sajo, sajo, mali 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 sajo. Sajo, mali sajo,
Ikellade malimende adega jobala kune kayeba mudo de badimote na dere sarabe tagirabe sayibele de male kayeba mudo de badimote na dere sarabe sagirabe sayibele de male kayeba nanondere nangwadere male warbe male manume mano e mano jemet ele kwange men goni kayebere bere Mikelede malimende, madega jobalagune, kayeba mutode batimote na tere. Sarabe zagirabe, sayibele de male, kayeba nanonere nangwanere malime. Warbe male manume, mano e mano jemen, ele konge men goni kayebe rebe me moda. Ingele aduna, kale de kewe, ono mali wala, michobe mali me, sudu baba me mali me. Ingele aduna, kale de kewe, ono mali wala, michobe mali me, sudu baba me mali me. Michobe malime, go baba me malime. Michobe malime, go baba me malime.
Abira de ya fo maliba biko tura misi. Misi mi shi biko sanle. Misi mi fenye jisanuma. Misi mi dun fenye sanyoronye. Hono kange iko sangle hono no niru misi bali bali chama ye ke saraka ye ni tura ke saraka la sangoleya kenye ke misina todo kungele ni gerekele mara mafenya kisila juguma tura inye mara fenye niye tura niye iye malibaye hono kange iko sanule hono no niru misi bali bali bede ki janto paso de nyuma bede ki janto turalina bede ki janto mali de nyuma chama ye ke saraka ye ni tura te sarakala sangola ya kenye ke misina todo ngele ni gerekele Maramafenya kisila juguma tura inye marafenye Niye turaniye iye malibaye Hono kange Iko sanule Hono no neru Misi bali bali Bede ki janto Faso de nyuma Bede ki janto Turalina Bede ki janto I janto malila Bede ki janto Turalina Bede ki janto Marafe nyuma Bede ki janto Sindia Yankalu